Good evening, this is the Oscar Expert here with Brother Bro. Time for more Sundance content. We're going to quickly recap some of the films that we're seeing at the festival. First up, Prisoners of the Ghostland, starring Nicolas Cage. This is directed by Sion Sono, who is a Japanese director. He's done a ton of films, but I think this is his first that incorporates the English language and American actors such as Nicolas Cage. It's kind of this Japanese neo-Western, campy Nicolas Cage thing.
Yeah, you have to mention Nicolas Cage in the genre because that itself is a subgenre. There is a person who will love this film. I have no doubt, and there are actually a lot of people who are really liking this film. I know people who I will recommend this to because I know they'll like it. However, this was not really for me. Yes, the movie is bonkers and it has this world that's kind of confusing and a little bit confounding, what?
A little like Mad Max, with all the weird.
A little
people,
bit, but Mad Max is simpler than this film. This one actually had a very complicated, maybe a little overwrought plot, having all these backstories of how stuff happened and what needs to happen in order to get the thing, in order to get back. You know, despite all of these kind of expositions, it was confusing how things got from point A to point B. I was like, wait. How did that happen to that happen? I would have preferred the film to just kind of abandon the logic a little bit and just not go as much into explaining itself and just be a bonkers thing. And instead, I felt like the film almost took itself a little too seriously. And people will hear me that and they'll be like, you thought this was a serious movie? And I'll be like, no. But yes, I did. I would embrace this film if it was even more off the walls, if Nicolas Cage was in it more, if he had more crazy fucking lines. And people will point to some lines, he screams testicles. And yes, that's incredible. It's amazing. I love that. But if you have Nicolas Cage, if you've got him, then do even more, push it even more.
He did not have enough of a presence in this movie.
Yeah.
He was really funny in it when he had the opportunity to be bonkers. There's so many other characters I didn't care about that it was focusing on.
I want it to be funnier, really, I think is the thing. Yeah, it kind of has its tongue in its cheek the whole time, but there are only so many really funny moments.
There are a handful that actually made me laugh. I'll be honest with that. And I was on board with the movie at first. And I will say, technically, it's really expertly done. The score is great. The production design is Oscar nomination worthy shit.
It's pretty nuts.
The costumes are excellent. The cinematography is very good.
Yeah, the lighting throughout, all the different colors.
You have this excellent tone that you've crafted. I love the campiness. I love that Nicolas Cage is in this. But the movie's main focus is fucking world building for the sake of world building, and I hate that shit. It's so
it's kind of
pointless.
You build up something just to when you leave the movie, it's all torn down by the end.
Yeah,
you're not going to remember any of the little intricacies of how stuff works within this universe.
Yeah, I didn't care about the universe at all. I wanted it to get to the action. I wanted to see Nicolas Cage be a badass because the character's introduced as the most badass man in the wild, whatever this is. He doesn't fucking battle anybody till the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You pointed it out when he killed somebody. You were like, that was the first time he killed someone, and I was like, you're right. What?
Almost
you're
the
right.
end of the movie.
They try to build his character to some very small extent with this little boy, basically to show that he in quotes doesn't kick the puppy. He's not that kind of bad guy. And it's just a very heavy-handed way to show the most basic part of a character that you want people to understand is that your protagonist has a semblance of a heart. I don't even know if it's worth even trying to explain that. And they kind of insist that throughout the movie because this child makes this appearance many times.
Yeah, it made the character lame. I didn't care about that. I didn't care that he had a heart because I don't care about that character. I want him to be fun, make jokes, and kill people in really hilarious ways. This movie just didn't deliver on the basic things that it just set itself up so well to be that kind of movie that's fun and stupid, and it just kept doing a bunch of shit that I don't care about. It has all these wacky worlds, and the people are oh, these people are prisoners because they just are stuck there, and then we can't move the clock because we just can't move the clock. He needs to go get the girl, and he just walks in, and he's completely allowed to get her. He doesn't have to battle anybody.
Yeah.
Make him battle a couple people. It would have been fucking easy. And then he struts right out, and then for some reason they can't leave. And then there's flashback memories that I don't know if they happened or not, and they were weird. They could have just left and gone the fuck out of there, but they didn't. They stayed and they helped the people, and it didn't make sense. I can't stress enough that this movie didn't make any fucking sense. The world building was completely just utter utter nonsense. Like, I don't care about the world building. I don't care if the character has to do this and then they go over here and then they have to go do this and they have to do this. Make them do something fun. I'm here to have fun. I don't care about the world unless I'm doing something fun in it.
Well, we have to make everything make sense in order to do stuff. And it's like, it doesn't even make sense at the end of the day because it's so hard to explain.
You overcomplicated it. It could have been so simple. I mean, Mad Max, such a simple film. They have to go. And you can do all kinds of fun stuff while they're going. And this movie was like, I don't even know what.
That was a long ass rant. It does make me a little bit sad that a lot of people are saying, this is like the craziest film Nicolas Cage has ever been. And it's like, no one dared to make like a crazier Nicolas Cage film. I want to make that crazier Nicolas Cage film.
Are you ignoring Mandy? Mandy's great. That's a great movie. I have one last thing to say, and it's that the choreography was not good. Like, they didn't make contact with people, and people just kind of dropped by like him like elbowing people's shoulder, and it didn't make any sense. I am not with the consensus on this one, so I'm not even going to tell you to take my recommendation for it. These are just my thoughts. If you think you might like the movie, I guess check it out.
I will give it like a 5 just because, yeah, I know. Again, because I know there's people who would like it and because like visually it was pretty great.
I'm giving it a 3. The next film we'll discuss is Together Together. This film stars Ed Helms and Patty Harrison. It is about Ed Helms, who's, a guy in his 40s who doesn't have a girl to have a baby with. And he decides, you know what? I'm going to be a single father. I'm going to get a surrogate and I'm going to have a baby for myself. Sort of that typical lighthearted comedy that subverts social norms. And the movie is about the relationship that he develops with his surrogate, a very nice, touching, platonic friendship that is very engaging because we have 2 excellent lead performances here. The movie's funny. It's very sweet. I was always engaged in the movie because I wanted to see this friendship continue to grow. I thought that the film did a really good job giving the characters more and more to like relate on, open up with, and bond about.
There are just so many like sweet scenes. I think the writing is great in this. Ed Helms fits right in with the character to the point where you're like, oh, well, I've seen him play that before. But I'm also like, that's why he's a good choice, though. It's like, it makes sense for who this character is. And I feel like he really nailed it. I thought the actress was very good as well. And it's just a really enjoyable movie. Like it is everything that I wanted. It's like a light strawberry cupcake. It's not like intensely sugary. It's like light enough. It's interesting because it does challenge the notion of like, can love exist between 2 people and be platonic? And I like that it's about this like wholly unique relationship and it's not just exploring romantic love. Like there's so many films that already do that. This one's like, no, I'm going to do something else. But as I was saying, before with my cupcake, I was really enjoying my cupcake. And then I accidentally, and it just fell on the ground at the end and it dropped on the sidewalk. And then people trampled over it. And I was like, oh man, I needed that last bite because the filling was like in the middle. And I just really wanted to get to the filling. That's what this movie did to me at the very ending. It cut to black at a moment when I was like, it was a very loaded shot. There were a lot of like emotions that I could have seen coming up. And then when it cut to black, I was like, what? Like, I really felt like I needed another 5 or 10 minutes just to feel like resolved about it. I understand what the movie was going for when I look back on it, and I know where the movie lands and everything, and I'm okay with that. Like, I'm happy with the story that it told, but I really did, like, especially for the kind of movie it was very agreeable. It was very audience friendly. I really expected to get like more of a closure. I feel like I got robbed at the ending out of a couple more sweet moments, like right when my heart was like really in it.
I felt the same thing. It was like, what? That's the ending? It definitely made me consider why would it choose to end there, and I've come up with like a reason for it.
It has a fine reason for it.
But like you were saying, it just doesn't feel like the kind of movie that should have that ending. I don't see why it wouldn't have been equally effective and probably more so if it coasted out with a few more emotional scenes.
And out of all the movies this Sundance that I wanted to end early, this was the one. I could have watched this for like so much longer, honestly. Yeah. It was one of the few films I would say that about at Sundance.
Because it was really, really enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I was definitely emotionally invested and I loved the characters. The movie had my heart in it. And that's like all you can ask for in a way. I hope that Patty Harrison gets more roles. This could be a pretty big breakout for her. And both the leads are worthy of Golden Globes attention if that ever happens next year.
I don't really expect this is going to get Golden Globes nominations, honestly. But yeah, like it was very good. I'm just kind of disappointed in the ending. It would have been at least an 8 if it didn't end like that. You know, right when it ended, my heart dropped to a 6, but now I can kind of like get back up to a 7.
I would also give it a 7. Last film we're going to talk about is Night of the Kings. This is the Ivory Coast submission to this year's Academy Awards, and it may very well be competitive in that category. It is about a young man who enters a prison that is controlled by the prisoners, who kind of set up like their own social system, and he gets designated as the storyteller.
I honestly don't know if I'll have that much to say about this film, because I'm wondering if there was something that I was missing about subtext or about surrounding like socio-political issues or current events that I'm just not privy to that give this film more of like a reason for being. It was hard for me to understand what the purpose of the story really was. Nonetheless, I found it to be quite engaging. It was pretty intense in some moments. I think the lead performance is actually very good in this film. It creates this really weird energy with all of like the extras and the supporting cast, and just like in the prison overall, that was like engaging for me. I would lastly say that it's a very good looking movie. I'd have to read more on like people who are really loving this film to understand what it is they're seeing in it. I'm not sure if I missed something or if I'm just kind of like underwhelmed.
Yeah, because everyone's saying how this is a film about the power of storytelling, and I definitely got that from a lot of the movie.
Very literally about that.
When the character is telling his stories to everybody and the crowd's kind of jumping in and like acting it out like it's an improv game or whatever. Those are really interesting. I sort of had a hard time finding like the significance of the story that was being told and where that fits into like what's going on within the prison. It just made me question like where it was going with that, because, you know, it was very obvious that it was about the power of storytelling because you feel that in the scenes, but where does it go with that idea? Like, I really couldn't say.
I really just need to read whether this is like paralleling something, and that would make it more of a layered movie. Or else, like, I don't see that much there.
But it was definitely enjoyable. Like, I appreciated the style and the look of the film.
I give it a 6.
6.5, I guess. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. What are you a prisoner of?